Look at this beautiful lance. Gotta love the lances. Oh yeah, what do you think that is? If you said delamination, give yourself a star right there. Not uncommon. So we'll go around and take a look. Now the front jacks seem okay. Usually I have issues with the back. And we tore this back one apart. And it does wobble a little bit, but that's because Lance's engineering department thought it would be real smart. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws in here. Here, I'll zoom up a little bit. You got 5 screws right here. Then around the other side, you got 4 more, and that plate is only 13 inches going into a 2x2. That's called it's going to split. Now there is aluminum in there on this one, and they got the stock of the wood on this particular one. They've got the, that may be how they try to fix it, but it still wobbles. So I've got another bolt assembly that's going to work on that. I'll show you that afterwards because I have to, obviously I can't take the jacks off with it sitting right here right now. So now we'll go upstairs and take a peek at what we got. We already started taking some of this stuff apart, so I wanted to try to get a video before I went too far. But here's your typical RV roof. Yes, beautiful, isn't it? Put more on. So I don't like these. Water can get right in there. That's why I don't like the way they mount all these. That's why we make the boots. These are coming off, but these got to stay. So I'll figure something out how I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll just cut this here and put these right back, you know, or maybe slide it down, or I don't know. I'll figure something, like I said. Something to get it on there. He wants to be able to use these racks again. So obviously got a little vent over here, got an escape hatch, getting rid of this antenna. This is solar prep right here. And now if you've got one of those type of plumbing, typically, see if I can zoom up on this thing pretty good, right in this leg, right in there, they generally don't caulk that. It's hard. A lot of people forget it. Like, they got it, they think, because there's so much slobbered on it now. Water will get right behind there, and the way those caps are on there, the little legs that come down, there's 3 of them, there's little screws there, so the water will get behind there and it'll get into that screw and it rot it out. So you want to make sure you seal in there. Even from here, it doesn't look like there's any caulking in it. So on here, same thing. Like, they sealed around the bottom here, but water will, if you have any gapping in here, just the moisture alone. This one seems like it may be sealed. You know, let's see. Nope. So the water will trickle down the wire, and then it'll go right in here, and then that's going into your roof, and you'll have a leak. And then a lot of times it'll start rotting all this out. This sounds good, but we're going to take all this up anyways and see what's up underneath it. That's what we do. We want to rip it apart, see what's in there. So the other thing you want to do is check your stitching. Get some fraying right there. Doesn't look like anything is actually ripped. Got a little chip here, but the there's some booger on there. A little scar here. So that looks better than it does down there, that's for sure. And this side of the bunk seemed okay. That seemed okay. So hopefully we can just remedy the problem up here and didn't fix the jacks, put a new roof on it. And out she go. Not really a fan of these type of gutters where these are all exposed. We'll seal them all up when we do them. We'll have little ring around those screws, make it look like basically like a grommet. I'll make sure they stay watertight. So if I even keep them, I may opt to go with some all-weather screws like you use on metal roofs. They have a little rubber gasket on there. That may work well. So we did this. It's just there temporarily because we started taking that off and I shifted them on something else. But there's nothing wrong with it. They just didn't get all the screw and everything there. Didn't want it to fall apart. So other than that, that's our lance. Yeah. So maybe there's a better way I can show you. Yeah, you can see there's no caulking in there. That's a leak. A chronic one. It's not going to pour water in. That's a lot of the issues we get here. It's not necessarily like a big hole, water pouring in. It doesn't work that way. What happens is you get these chronic leaks. A little bit of moisture rots that out, and then the decking will suck some of it up. Basically, it'll wick it, and then you'll have another issue, and then eventually everything, this inside, it absorbs it, the insulation maybe, the framing or whatever. But that's how typically it works. So hopefully we can salvage this skylight. Sometimes they just get so brittle, we try to loosen them up, that they'll end up splitting on us, and we gotta put a new one on. And then there's the other fancy dancy plumbing right there. We'll be putting a boot on there with a bell cap, and that's about it. So let us get to tearing this thing apart. We're going to show you what else we got. Obviously got to take the window out, and it looks like we may have to peel that siding back quite a bit to see what's going on. Alrighty, that's what we do. Oh, these are poor lance. Look at all that. So looks like we got mainly over here. This is all dry, looks okay. We're going to check out this bottom portion of the bunk as well. But over here, this is all rotted right here, so we got to take that apart. Then we're going to explore the bunk. So when we got up here and checked, this sheet is down really tight. It's glued. This sheet is glued. So we got one sheet, two sheet glued. This one really isn't glued. It's got a little bit of glue. That's it, just in that one area right there. Other than that, the rest of the sheet isn't glued. So we're going to take that up, and if we salvage it, we'll re-glue it. If not, we'll make another piece. And then we got some rot right here that we got to deal with, and that's mainly on the sheet. So we're going to cut this sheet too and peel up that rot and replace it. Then we can get ready for some roofing. Still got that D-lam on the other side, we haven't fixed it. Okie dokie, looky here. So we have got the pylon fixed on here, fresh piece of wood on the inside, all glued back. This is a new radius that I built. They had this foam on here, but all they did was place it in there. They just placed it. So I made a whole new frame for it and everything, screwed it all back together, all glued back together. And now we're gonna wrap it, get the pylon on there, fix this here, get that roof on, and I'm gonna fix those back jacks. If you have a lance, I'll show you how to fix those if they're not bad. I'll show you the hardware to use when I get to it. I'm talking about the ones at the back, not these ones here, but the ones at the back. Well, we got our front pylon on. And then, I don't know, well, it's actually behind here. It's getting a little fast on me. Let's see if you can see it. Alright, stress this a bit. We got a piece of sheet metal right here. That wraps all the way around up to here. And then it also goes on that other one, wraps all that and pulls it all together. We're going to get a turn bar up on underneath here for sure. That'll get that together. Then this piece already had some, no, you can even see it, yeah, right up underneath there. That's not texture of the view of the mountain, that's actually some distressing on the actual piece itself. So we can't get that out. So we're going to make sure it's on there really well, roll it again and see what we can do. But once it starts wrinkling really bad, option B would have been to tear the whole thing, put a whole new piece on there. But then you can have a bright white piece on there. You're gonna have decals that you'll need to get, another decal. And the worst part is when you go somewhere, hey, what happened to your camper? What happened to your camper? What happened to your camper? Yeah, here, no matter where you go, you know, campsites, getting gas, whatever. What happened to your camper? So we try to keep things as original as we can, because I promise you that would be aggravating. After the first couple of stories you tell, after a while you just want to hand out a brochure or maybe a link to this video. All right, we are getting the roof on our lance. We've got all our edge band on here. They usually just put tape on there, but that's a piece of aluminum we put down there. So we get all that, glue's all ready to go. We're gonna roll it over. We already did the passenger side. Those are the wires for the antenna that we're gonna end up changing out anyways. So we're about ready to go. Got all those repairs done on the front, put new panels and wood up in the front there. So we got all that squared away. Let's roll her out. All right, now that we got the roof all rolled out, we go over it with this big roller. That's a big Mamu, 110 pounds. I can curl that with one hand. These guys can't, you know what I mean? But I can, you know. I mean, you do as many roofs as I do. You got to learn how to curl 110 with one hand. Yeah, let me tell you about the fish I caught. These anchors are called T-anchors. That's what they are. So here's the problem with these. So we took out all the screws. We're going to get this just in time because there is no major damage. But what they did is they put all the screws in. They just put them through in there. Now inside here is an aluminum frame with a piece of wood inside the aluminum frame. So these screws just go in there and they're going to waller out. You can almost see this one. It's, I don't know if I can show on the camera right, but it's actually hanging down. These are all jacked. So they only go into that wood. They're just regular bolts. They're just regular lags, like these. So eventually they're just going to waller out from up and down, up and down, up and down, and all the weight that's on there. So they got them going this way. They also got them going this way, so that little piece of wood that's in there is getting stressed out. So what we did, now on this wall, and this, the way this wall is built, you have 1.5 inches thick, and then this other wall that joins it, but that's hollow. That's a hollow one. So what you have to do is you have to drill these out. You drill them out, and you get past the first one, and you'll feel it as you drill. You'll drill through the metal, you'll drill through the wood, you'll drill through the other piece, the other side of that aluminum, and then you'll drill through the aluminum for the side wall. You're going to take these, slide there, and then the anchor will drop down. When the anchor drops down, then you'll have the bolt like this. What we did is we put lock nuts on them with washers. You have to cut them, I'm sure, but that's what they're called, T-anchors. Now that's going to reach inside and it's going to be pulling this way. And also the stress on these, it's something crazy. It's like 1,500 pounds a piece for one of these. So you can figure what we got here and on the other side. That's going to be super, super strong. And then you should be all set with that. But we use the nylon lock nuts for it. But it'll prevent all this, because now this will be pulling everything together like it should once you start cranking that down, right? It'll be squeezing it together. And you'll have that hole already drilled out, so you'll have all that strength on the metal. The hole will actually give you some strength from the lateral movement, where this isn't. This is getting wallered out. I don't know if you can understand the principle of that, but hopefully you can. Well, our lance is done. So we got all of this put together, and then up underneath here on this platform, somebody got inside, and it looked like it was bowing just a bit. So I didn't like it, so we took it out. And then this piece that I put in, so I got the light, you may not even need the light to see it, but this piece that I put in, this is a T-bar. And it looks like a T this way, and it goes up this way. And then on the inside, there's a plate that goes down, and it screws down and squashes all this together. And it added tremendous amount of strength to it. So it wasn't necessarily rotted, it was just a piss poor design that most manufacturers have, but at the same point, it wasn't rotted, and I really didn't want to start digging into a man's wallet just for something like that. So the other thing we did was put a piece of plywood underneath the mattress just to kind of disperse the weight a little bit. It made a tremendous difference. So I don't see a problem with it, and I didn't think it was necessary to start tearing something apart, you know, just for that. Sometimes you can go more than you need to, but it was working fine. So we put that in there, and then, well, I'll show you the roof, but we got everything else all back together, lights on, all that stuff. And then the only other thing I don't like about these, I don't like these exposed kind of screws, but you can see every one of them has a little, basically a little ring around them. Call it a little, like a little grommet. Make sure that's sealed out. So let's go up and take a look upstairs. I was going to go upstairs and show you, but I wanted to show you the way these bolts worked. You can see we got all the nuts on here. Stand by, that light's too bright. I can find a different mode. There we go. So we put all those bolts in there. Those are the ones that I showed you how we drilled a hole. We drilled a hole through everything, and then sometimes you have to waller it out a little bit. There's some foam or something back there. It takes a little bit to do. It's not like just, some of them will just drop in, some of them won't. So we had to make sure we got them all, and then just obviously cut the heads down and so forth. So, but that's how it works. So now this is all, the T-bolt that I showed you is squeezing everything together, and all of the stress is sitting on the bolts instead of just on the little screws. We already cleaned all it up. The little screws that I showed you, or they weren't really little, but the screws that they used. So that's going to be a much better fix. And we did it on both sides. So we got all that. So that's how that works. We did this one over here as well. Alright, now we go upstairs and I'll show you. So we're done. We are done. One of the things the customer wanted was to put these racks back on, because I guess he does put some stuff up here. So I had to make some custom boots for these. Made all these. You can see we made them for the ladder as well. but these are all screwed down together. I wanted it to look like it was going to be part of this, meaning that that's what it was made for, instead of just trying to make some random square. So I like things to look like they're supposed to be instead of something that's just done. So we got our little logo on here. We keep that on there for inspections. We can tell how the roof's performing, but also if the customer ever decided to sell the coach or the camper, then he can say, hey, the roof is just put on, because these things are known to leak. So you can say, hey, it was just put on October 22, it's got X amount of warranty left, so on and so forth. So we put a gutter in the back. We put that on the back there, and it also kicked off there, so it just doesn't run down the side of the coach. So I definitely want to thank the customer for bringing this little camper to us. We appreciate it, appreciate the work. We know that people come a long ways. I think this customer is from Ohio, so he had a little bit of ways to come down, and I can imagine how many RV centers he passed up just to make it to us. So that's why we take the time. We're honored that, you know, folks do that, and it's too expensive to do twice. So so all that said, again, we thank the customer. Going down this way, you can see we got our vents. This is all heat welded. All of that is all heat welded in there. It's not caulked. All of these, this is all heat welded. And this is a special sealer we put in there, so it isn't going to loosen up. It's going to stay kind of flexible all the time. Then you see we got the cover on there. We've got a couple of stands in the back to help balance the air conditioner there. We got a curb obviously on here. And then when you come on here, you got all that rain coming down. Up underneath here is a foam gasket. So what typically happens is, on a typical application, if you don't have, this is a piece of counter flash, and the purpose of that counter flash is to make sure, as it's raining and especially as you're traveling and the wind is blowing, I want to make sure it's not going to travel back into that foam gasket and try to breach it. So we put that on there. That goes, this piece of counter flash goes over the other counter flash that's on our curbs that I designed in there. So everything you see on here, I designed. Everything is all my design right here. And I want to make sure everything fits and functions properly. This is how a commercial flat roof functions. So this is a counter flash, and that's what that piece will do, is it'll go over this one. That has the same one. So you can see we did the same thing with the skylight. You can see some of the discoloration there. That's the heat penetration that we got in there. And this is 60 mil. This is the thickness of it. It's a 60 mil. This is for the solar. If you ever needed to, we just tucked the wires down there. It wasn't being used. And if somebody decides to do solar, then we're going to have to do something to get the solar package put together. But there's no room for solar on here, really. So, but I just put that there just for that time being. So the type of material, this is it right here. And you can see those little squares in there. That is a reinforcement. And it helps to resist against hail. It resists against tree branches, and I mean, it takes a lot to try to puncture this, but we do leave the folks with a care package just in the case a tree branch does come down and puncture it. You can at least patch it up real quick even in the rain. So again, we do the same thing with these screws. You gotta go in and like I said, not really a fan of these. I really like the ones that I can put an insert trim in. Well, we don't have those ones there, and again, it would have cost more money, so all we did is just put them on there. On the front, we had to put one on here. This is what we did. We put an insert on here. It just protects the screws. Got 2 layers of caulking all the way down. Everything, 2 layers. We put this on. We glue it on. Here's an adhesive sealant behind here. And then we put the screws on. That'll burp up. We strike it down. When that cures, we go over it with another coat. Okay, another pass. And then when that cures, we go over it yet with another pass. So basically, you got like 3 if you want. Try to figure it that way. So all that's really tight. But the reason you're going to put 2 strikes on here is if you've ever run a caulking gun, you start squeezing, you'll hear it pop and crackle. You just embedded a air bubble in there. So now this thing's going down the road, racking, twisting, flexing, and if that air bubble pops, now you got a leak. So what are the chances of having another air pocket land on top of an air pocket? It probably slim to none. That's why I always put 2 passes. It's more of a prudent measure on our part. So again, we got all those custom boots that I made for there. I think those come out looking really good, really sharp. We had to change this a little bit. The other one I didn't like, and it was also all corroded in there when we tried to work it. There was an insert, so we just put those on there. So what we got going on here, this is an intake, and this is an exhaust. So a lot of times you'll have condensation, like especially now, it's really cold out, you'll have condensation or frost up on here, we'll say. And then when the sun comes up, it will condensate this, but up on the inside, it's not going to evaporate it off. So what'll happen is it'll tend to trickle and follow down on the inside, and it'll, in this case, it would try to get onto the curb. Or if you just had a regular roof without a curb, it would get into your ceiling panel or the roof deck. So the only fix for that is to get the air out of there, give constant circulation. So that's what we did. We've got an intake right there. It'll pull in the air, and it'll come up over the lens, the inner lens, and this is the exhaust. This is solar, so you don't have to go in and monitor it. It'll automatically come on. It'll automatically work. So that's the plumbing. Another plumbing over here. You can see the way we mounted this dish. We put those there on bolts, so if for whatever reason it doesn't work proper, he needs to return it, whatever, just undo those bolts, drop another one on there. It's that simple. He doesn't have to worry about digging out caulking. He doesn't have to worry about any of that nonsense. So that's an easy way to mount those. And I already showed you there's emergency hatch. There's a big piece too. So other than that, we are ready to go. You know, we sealed all around the lights, went around everything all up in here. So everything's good. I still would recommend that the customer go around and seal the rest of the coach. We only did some other areas, and you know, I'm sure he's capable of just going around putting some caulking on there. Doesn't need to pay us to put caulking on stuff that he could probably do himself and save himself some money. So that's our lance right there. We appreciate y'all watching. These aren't necessarily DIY videos. If you got a tip, awesome. But they're generally not a DIY video. We don't give quotes over social media. And again, don't take these as a tutorial. There's a lot of steps that go into these that we do, and that's why you'll see, you know, from one end, and you see it's like I think the last clip you saw was probably from us, besides up underneath there on the roof wise, was just laying down the roof, because it's just a lot of prep, and there's a lot of stuff that I just wouldn't have time to keep videoing. As you can tell, I just walk around with a camera. You know, we're not, you know, Hollywood. We're not doing any of the fancy stuff. I see people on YouTube. I think they're trying to be YouTube stars. I'm not trying to be a YouTube star. I'm trying to show Mr. Customer what we did to his coach. And that's the important part, is what we did for him. And if other people see it and they can get a tip out of it, that's awesome. But at the same point, like you said, that wasn't the main goal. And I do get comments from time to time saying I'm moving too fast with the camera and so on and so forth. You got to understand, I'm just trying to get meat and potatoes out of here. So I don't ask people to subscribe. If you do, awesome. If you know, but it's not something that I usually promote, because, like I said, I'm not trying to be a YouTube star. I'm just trying to get some work done for this guy. And then as soon as we get it done for this customer and do it 100%, we move to the next customer and do 100%. So that's just the way we work here. We want it done once, done right. Awesome. Well, thanks again for watching. Right. So in our care package, we have caulking, we got primer, we have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. We got a patch peel and stick pack. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, it will simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through, and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof, it's leaking. So what you want to do? And it's raining out. Right now it's raining. You're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you're trying to do, you need to get up underneath the roofing, like this. This is what we need to do, get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. You squeeze, squeeze. You want to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Get some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. You shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off.
Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. What we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You get another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. Hey, what are you doing? What are you going to talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that up because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. You're going to take that, you're going to go all inside the square. You're also going to go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. Get the fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. You put them in all the care packages. Get that daggone thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. There it is. Now you got the film. You take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That's simple. If it doesn't all sit in there, you can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we get that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.